More folks, Drew Rathner here with ProFuturesTrader.com. Just a quick Friday afternoon metals market update and some things that I'm noticing or observed this week. I talked last week a bit about the inflation. We've come down to 2.9%. We did have a double top in the 70s and 80s. So far, we've had one top, and we've come down since the Biden era to 2.9%. Lo and behold, this week, we had the largest uptick since 2022, February 2022, of the PCE, which is the personal consumption expenditure inflation number. Core inflation is still relatively modest, only at 0.3%, but the PCE did have its largest jump. And this is what I've been talking about and been looking for long-term, I think, metals, as long as these inflation numbers continue to go up, and they do look like they're going to, especially with fuel prices elevated and staying where they're at, and that has to filter through the system, you will see, or what I call CPI, cost push inflation, continue to slam our economy, kind of resemblance of what happened in the 70s and 80s. Both of those events were triggered by oil events as well, and as we are seeing with this as well. So let's go and take a look at the metals markets, what's going on now. All right, let's go and take a look first at the June gold contract, which is the GCM 26. This is the monthly chart. Well intact bull market still, even though we're well off those peaks that we hit in January. In an ideal world, if you were able to get into this area, the 4325, 4300 area, you're in great shape. Okay, that would be the dream shot. But right now, what I'm seeing here, short term, on a short term basis, got a bit of a doji stick right here where it prods down and it springboards back up. So what I'm hoping for, my best guess, is with the inflation numbers coming out as they are, we're going to get some catalyst to go and try and get this market to go higher. Okay. Now, my other concern, though, is the stock market did go straight to record highs, which is interesting considering we're kind of in this on-off war issue with Iran. You've got inflation spiking, and you've got the crude oil issues. If that market were to crash or we went to a liquidity crunch, we had a big downturn in the Dow Jones and the ES, and everybody went cash is king, then you could see a downward turn. I don't necessarily see that happening, but that's still a thought in my head. What I'm hoping for, like I said, my best guess, that relatively short term, it's strong, and we do get up and get moving again to the upside. I know Bank of America, a lot of the major banks have these forecasts. I know they brought them down a little bit. They had, I think BofA, don't quote me on this, but I think it was around 5,200 they're looking for year end. Now, I will say, when it comes to banks' forecasts, I don't necessarily take them with a grain of salt, because quite often they are dead wrong, just as myself. I can be dead wrong. Nobody can really forecast the future 100%. If I did, I wouldn't be talking to you guys. So that's what I'm looking at right now with the gold sector. All right, so this will be short and brief, but this is the July contract, the SIEN 26. We just rolled off of the May. If you're not familiar with how that works, you can reach out to me. I'll teach you how that works. But we just came out to the SIEK 26. Now we're in July. Here's what I'm looking at right now, which I think looks relatively pretty bullish in my opinion. We had a big downward spike there, continue to go march up, and this is the weekly. We have a very similar spike to the downside there as well. So what I'm hoping for is we have that continuation of that upward pattern. We get to that 80, 81 area on a short-term basis. That's what I'm hoping for. And now that we've got through options expiration, month in, fresh contract, hopefully we bring all the bulls back in. Now, if you want to be really patient, you can wait for it to come back down. You could be possibly working some orders at that 65-ish area if you want to wait. Again, completely up to you. That's not trade recommendations whatsoever. So that's what I'm looking at right now. It's been a grind with this war on, war off situation, so we'll see how that all plays out. Stock market just says forget about it. Goes right back to these record highs, which is I find really interesting, by the way. So I'm really hoping that in the next month or two, we get that grind back. Now, on a side note, I am a little concerned going into the summer months. Sometimes it can get a little tricky in those summer months. Not always, just sometimes. I've seen the metals peak in August before, but quite often, sometimes I've seen some liquidity issues come into play when we get these severe softs. So just keep that in mind from a risk management perspective, and watch what you're doing with your leverage ratio. So that's all I've got today. Other than that, hope you have a great trading day. Take care. Bye.